Today I'm sharing family photo posing ideas with you. So you're going to get some pose ideas along with compositional guidelines and tips for getting more variety from each pose. Now I'm Audrey Ann from Live Snap Love, where I help you master photography quickly and easily so that you can beautifully capture the people and the moments that matter most. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, and that way you'll stay in the loop for future videos. But for now, let's get cracking with some of our family posing ideas. So the first family pose I have for you is to have everyone sitting down and then have them form a triangle shape. Now this is such a simple way of posing your families. So in this first example here, you can see that we have everyone kind of sitting, but they're leaning over the back of a couch, which also makes a really interesting pose. But you can see that the shape of their bodies is forming that triangle pose. Now, forming a triangle pose gives you diagonal lines in the frame, which helps add more interest and make the scene more dynamic. Now here you have the subjects forming the triangle in the center of the frame, but another way you can do this is have your subjects off to the side of the frame. Again, that's using another compositional guide. We're using more kind of like the rule of thirds here, not having our subject in the center of the frame. Now you can add even more variety here by shooting wider, getting the full body in and then going for a half body shot and then going for a tight headshot. So again, add more variety to each pose simply by changing how near or how far you are from your subjects. Now, family pose number 2 is a fairly standard family pose as well, and that's simply to have everyone standing facing the camera. Now, you can vary this by having, the adults come down to the same height as the children, and this will also help if you want to create a triangle pose with standing people as well. Now you can have everyone face the camera like in this example here and in this example here. I would consider this your classic family portrait pose. Everyone standing, everyone looking toward the camera. But again, you can create variety in this pose simply by having everyone look at one another rather than having them look at the camera. To me, this creates a much more fun and relaxed family portrait. And I think that things are moving away from having more standard family portraits and more stiff into something a little bit more relaxed and informal. So it's great if you can mix it up by having the more formal ones and then making them more fun and relaxed. Now, I want to bring your attention to a blog post that a photographer that I really love and admire, Melissa Gibson. She wrote a blog post for us on how to make your family photo sessions more fun. I've left a link to that in the description underneath this video. She actually took these last 2 photos. She's a wonderful photographer, really great tips for making your family sessions more fun. So make sure that you check that out in the description. Now, family pose number 3 is to have your family walking toward or away from you. So starting with having everyone kind of walk toward you, you can either again have everyone looking at the camera, and I would start with that, and then switch it up so that everyone is looking at someone else in the frame. Again, that gives you that 2 different images from the same pose, having them walking towards you. Now you can also change up the speed. So rather than having them walk towards you or walk very slowly, you can speed that up and have them run toward you. This is particularly great for children who won't enjoy, being in a posed family portrait, and this can also just help loosen them up. Even if you go on to prefer the more posed family portraits, simply having them run toward the camera can make it more fun rather than being all posed and formal. So this is also a really great idea for when you want to photograph children on their own or just the siblings without the parents, then that can also give you some really fun photos. Family pose number 4 is to have everyone lined up in a row. Now, we can just have everyone lined up in a row, but a way to make this more interesting and give you more connection in your family photos is to have everyone hug and touch in some way. So really getting everyone to kind of smooch together. As you can see in this image here, all the faces are together and everyone's hugging one another, and that really helps bring that family connection and adds more interest to this, what could be a rather basic pose of having everyone lined up in a row. And again, this can be done standing, as in that last example, or you can have everyone sitting down. So for here, we don't have the parents in the frame, so it's another great one for siblings. Now you can also do this with larger group shots as well. So if you have, 6 or 7 or 8, you can have them line up in a row as well. But again, trying to just to make sure that everyone is touching in some way adds that connection, particularly when you have larger groups. Now I wanted to show this example here, everyone standing in a row, and it's a silhouette photo. It's a great way of having a silhouette is to have everyone line up in a row. That way you can clearly see each person in the family. Make sure that they're not close together. So this is the opposite of what we've just been saying, of having everyone squished together. When you're doing a silhouette photo, make sure that you have separation between each person and you can see a really clear outline of them. Now, if you're not sure how to get a silhouette photo, I do have a video on how to do this. I will link to that in the description underneath this video as well. So be sure to check that one out too. Next up, we have family pose number 5, and this is a really fun one, and that is to have everyone lie on the floor and then you shoot down on them. So everyone is looking up at you. Again, as we've said before, you can add variety to this pose by having everyone look at one another instead of up at you. Now, just a really important safety point here, when you do this, do make sure that you have your camera strap around your neck. You don't want the camera to fall onto your subjects. The next family pose I have for you is to bring the children up into the same height. So if this example here, there's a younger child, just having the child brought up, and in this case in between the parents, you can get everyone kind of smooshing closer together. And again, no one here is looking at the camera, but it's a really nice intimate portrait because everyone is hugging and touching in some way. Now for older children, it's not really going to be feasible to have them on your hip. You can have them stand behind on something, let's just say a park bench, or you can bring boxes along with you and have them stand behind their parents. If they're a little bit younger and not too heavy, you can have them actually just being carried on the backs of the parents. So again, it's another way of just adding a little bit of variety to a pose. You could have everyone standing with the children in front of their parents and then just have the children move behind and get up onto the same height. Now the next pose I have for you is for throwing a child in the air. Obviously they have to be kind of young enough for this to happen, but I've shown one here as a silhouette because I love seeing this as a silhouette. It's such a fun one, and you can see in this one everyone's kind of forming a triangle shape here as well, which also helps with that diagonal lines. And again, because you have that separation from the the adult who's throwing the child and then the child being in the air, it's a really fun one to have as a silhouette, but obviously you don't need to have that as a silhouette. Another variation on this is to have both children or one child, depending on how many kids they have in the family, up onto the shoulders of the parents. And the final one I have for you is to have the everyone lie on their tummies. Now this only works with smaller groups, so maximum really I would say of a family of 4, sometimes better if it's just a family of 3. And it's also a really great one for siblings. So when adults are out of the frame and you're just getting the siblings on their own, this can be a great one for them. So again, if it's a family, I really only would do that as a maximum of 4 people. Otherwise it starts to look weird, preferably for families of 3, but it's a great one for do for your siblings as well. Now, I do have another video that I think you will enjoy, and that is our child posing ideas. So I will leave a link to it in the description underneath this video, so be sure to check that one out too. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It means so much to me when you do that. And also leave a comment below letting me know which of these poses you are going to try. Or if you have a suggestion for a pose, you have a go-to one, leave that in the comments below as well, and we can make this into a collaborative post. But also, please be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you will stay in the loop and you'll get notified every time a new video goes live. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you again next week.